At 68 years old, I thought I knew my daughter Sarah well. After raising her alone since her father left when she was 8, sacrificing my dreams to pay for her college, and helping her buy her first house, I believed we shared mutual respect. But when she told me I was too old and senile to make my own decisions about my $850,000 inheritance from my late sister, I realized I had raised a stranger. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. And the next morning, I called my lawyer to rewrite my will completely. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday in October, just as the maple tree in my front yard was turning the most beautiful shade of gold. I remember thinking how my late sister Margaret would have loved to see it. She always said autumn was God's way of showing off before winter's rest. Margaret had passed away 3 months earlier, and while I mourned the loss of my only sibling, I had no idea she'd left me anything significant. We lived modestly our whole lives, children of a postal worker and a seamstress, so when the lawyer's letter mentioned an inheritance of $850,000, I had to read it 3 times. Margaret had invested wisely in her later years, it turned out. Her small apartment building in Portland had appreciated tremendously, and combined with her pension fund and life insurance, it created quite a nest egg. The letter explained that as her sole surviving family member, everything would transfer to me within 60 days. I sat in my kitchen that morning, surrounded by the same yellow wallpaper I'd hung 20 years ago, and felt overwhelmed by the possibilities. For the first time since retiring from my job at the phone company, I could truly help my family, travel like I'd always dreamed, or maybe even move somewhere warmer for my arthritis. The first person I wanted to share the news with was Sarah. At 42, she was a successful marketing manager with a beautiful home in the suburbs, married to David, and mother to my precious grandchildren, Emma, 15, and Tyler, 12. Surely she would be happy for her old mom's good fortune. I invited Sarah, David, and the grandkids over for Sunday dinner, planning to share my news over Margaret's famous pot roast recipe. I spent Saturday shopping for all their favorites: Sarah's beloved dinner rolls, David's preferred beer, and ice cream for the kids. The conversation started well enough. Emma told me about her upcoming school play, Tyler showed me his latest Pokémon cards, and David complained good-naturedly about his golf game. But when I mentioned Margaret's inheritance during dessert, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. 850,000, Sarah nearly choked on her apple pie. Mom, that's a lot of money for someone your age to handle. I'm 68, not 88, I laughed. My mind is perfectly clear. David leaned forward, suddenly very interested in the conversation. Linda, have you thought about what you want to do with it? Because Sarah and I have been discussing some investment opportunities. Before I could answer, Sarah jumped in. Mom, you need to be realistic. You're retired, living on Social Security and Dad's small pension. This money could set you up for life if you handle it properly. I plan to handle it very properly, I said, feeling a slight chill in the room. I was thinking about traveling to Ireland like your father and I always planned. Maybe helping out with Emma's college fund. Perhaps even getting that new roof I've been putting off. Sarah exchanged a look with David that I didn't like. Mom, traveling at your age isn't safe, and throwing money at home repairs when you should be thinking about assisted living preparation? It's not practical. Assisted living? I set down my fork. Sarah, I live independently. I drive, cook, manage my finances, volunteer at the library twice a week. Why would I need assisted living? Because you're not getting any younger, she said with that patronizing tone I'd begun to notice more often. Look, I think David and I should help you set up some proper investment accounts. Maybe a nice, safe CD that you can't touch for a few years. Keep you from making any impulsive decisions. Emma looked uncomfortable. Grandma seems fine to me, Mom. Adults are talking, Emma, Sarah snapped, then turned back to me. Mom, you need to trust us on this. David works in finance, and I deal with marketing budgets all day. We understand money management better than someone who's been out of the workforce for 8 years. I felt something crack inside my chest, not my heart breaking, but something harder. My backbone, maybe, finally finding its strength after years of bending. I appreciate your concern, I said carefully, but this is my inheritance, and I'm perfectly capable of making my own decisions. Sarah's face flushed. Mom, you bought that ridiculous exercise bike last year that you never use. You spent $300 on a vacuum cleaner when your old one worked fine. You're not exactly showing great judgment lately. That exercise bike helps my arthritis, and the vacuum cleaner was a gift to myself after 40 years of using hand-me-downs. See, that's exactly what I mean, Sarah said, her voice rising. Spending money on things you don't need because they make you feel good. That's not how you handle a windfall like this. Tyler had gone quiet, playing with his phone, while Emma watched the adults with wide, worried eyes. David cleared his throat uncomfortably. What Sarah means, he said in what I'm sure he thought was a soothing voice, is that we care about your security. This money could be your safety net, but only if it's protected from, well, from the kinds of mistakes people make when they're not thinking clearly. When they're not thinking clearly, I repeated, or when they're too old. Sarah threw her hands up. Mom, you're twisting our words, we're trying to help you, but if you're going to be stubborn about this, I don't know what to say. You could say you're proud of your mother for receiving such a generous gift, I suggested, or happy that I might finally be able to do some things I've always dreamed of. Dreams are for young people, Sarah said dismissively. At your age, you need to be practical. Focus on security, not fantasy trips to Ireland. That's when she said the words that changed everything. Mom, let's be honest. You're too old to be making big financial decisions anymore. You should be grateful that David and I are willing to take on this responsibility for you. The room went completely silent. Even Tyler looked up from his phone. Too old? I asked quietly. Yes, Sarah said, doubling down. Too old to understand modern investment strategies, too old to travel safely, too old to know what you really need versus what you think you want. Emma started to say something, but Sarah shot her a warning look. I stood up slowly, my arthritis making the movement deliberate and careful. I think it's time for you all to go home. Mom, don't be dramatic, Sarah sighed. We're just trying to. You're trying to manage me like I'm one of your marketing accounts, I interrupted. But I'm still your mother, and this is still my house, and this is still my inheritance. David started gathering his things immediately, clearly uncomfortable with the conflict. Sarah, however, wasn't finished. Fine, she said, standing up and grabbing her purse. But don't come crying to us when you've blown through that money on stupid purchases and dream vacations. Don't expect us to support you when you're broke again. Again, I asked, when have you ever supported me, Sarah? She paused at the door. We bought you that tablet last Christmas. After I helped you with your down payment 5 years ago. After I paid for your wedding. After I took out a second mortgage to help with your college loans. That's what parents do, she said defensively. Yes, I agreed. It is, and children are supposed to show gratitude and respect in return. She left without another word, herding her family out the door like I was the unreasonable one. I spent that night sitting in my kitchen, staring at the inheritance paperwork and thinking about Sarah's words. Too old to decide anything. After 68 years on this earth, 42 years as a mother, 35 years in the workforce, I was suddenly too senile to manage my own money. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became, not just at Sarah's words, but at the pattern they represented. When had I become such a pushover? When had I started accepting her dismissive attitude as normal? I made a list of every major decision I'd made in the past 5 years. Switching to a better Medicare plan, after researching for months. Refinancing my house to get a better interest rate. Choosing my retirement investments wisely enough to have a comfortable nest egg. Volunteering at the literacy center, where I taught 3 adults to read. Learning to use a computer and managing all my bills online. None of these decisions suggested someone who was losing her mental faculties. Then I made another list. Every time in the past 2 years that Sarah had dismissed my thoughts, interrupted my stories, or treated me like I was becoming incompetent. Last Christmas, when she changed my grocery order without asking because she thought I was buying too much junk. My 67th birthday, when she canceled the restaurant reservation I'd made because she decided it was too expensive for what you get. The time she threw away my collection of flower magazines because they were cluttering up the house. 3 different occasions when she'd answered questions directed at me because I was taking too long to respond. By 2 a.m., I had my answer. This wasn't about protecting me from making bad decisions. This was about control. Sarah had gotten used to managing me, and the inheritance threatened that dynamic. I called my lawyer first thing Monday morning. "Mrs. Patterson," Jim Bradley said when I explained why I was calling, "are you sure you want to make changes this quickly? Sometimes family disputes work themselves out." "Jim, I've been thinking about this for 2 days straight. My daughter thinks I'm too old to make my own decisions, so I'm going to make the most important decision of my life." "What did you have in mind?" "I want to change my will completely. And I want to create some tests to see who in my family actually deserves to benefit from my good fortune." Jim was quiet for a moment. "What kind of tests?" "The kind that show someone's true character." Over the next week, I carefully planned 3 tests for the people in my life. They had to be situations that appeared completely legitimate, required small sacrifices of time or money, and would reveal each person's priorities when they thought no one important was watching. Test 1, the medical emergency. I would call each family member claiming I'd twisted my ankle badly and needed someone to drive me to urgent care because I was too shaky to drive safely. This would cost them maybe 2 hours of their day and require them to prioritize my well-being over their schedule. Test 2, the financial crisis. I would explain that my debit card had been compromised and I needed to borrow $150 to cover groceries and medications until my bank sorted things out. This would show whether they trusted me enough to help without questioning my story, and whether they could spare a modest amount for my basic needs. Test 3, the technology problem. I would call saying my computer had crashed and I couldn't figure out how to restore my files, including important financial documents. This would require patience and willingness to spend time helping me with something they might find tedious. I decided to test Sarah, my son Michael, who lived 2 states away but visited twice a year, and my nephew Danny, Margaret's son, who lived about an hour away and called occasionally. But I also wanted to test someone who wasn't family, someone who might surprise me. That's when I thought of Rebecca. Rebecca Martinez was my neighbor's granddaughter, though she'd been living next door for almost 2 years while finishing her nursing degree. At 28, she was working part-time at the hospital while studying for her final exams. I'd watched her struggle to make ends meet, sometimes walking to work to save gas money, always cheerful despite her challenges. We'd developed a friendly relationship over the garden fence. She'd helped me bring in groceries when my arthritis was bad, and I'd made extra soup for her during her exam weeks. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of neighborly kindness that used to be common. I decided to test Rebecca too, though I suspected she might be different from my family members. Before I began the tests, I made one more decision. I rewrote my will to reflect my new understanding of who deserved my help. Original will. 60% to Sarah. 30% to Michael, 10% to various charities, a new will, 70% to whoever showed the most genuine care during my tests, 20% for my own comfort and dreams, 10% to Sarah and Michael combined, with a letter explaining exactly why. I started with Sarah on a Thursday morning, knowing she had a light schedule that day. Sarah, honey, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I took a bad fall in my garden this morning. I think I twisted my ankle pretty badly, and I'm feeling a bit shaky. Could you possibly drive me to urgent care? I don't think I should drive myself. There was a pause. Mom, how bad is it really? Can't you just ice it and see how you feel tomorrow? It's quite swollen, and I'm having trouble putting weight on it. Okay, well, I have a conference call at 2 p.m. that I really can't miss. Could you call an Uber? Sarah, I've never used Uber. I'm 68 years old and injured. Fine, let me see if David can do it. He's working from home today. She called back 20 minutes later. David has back-to-back meetings. Can you call Michael? Michael lives in Ohio, Sarah. Right, well, look, urgent care is expensive. Are you sure it's not just a sprain? Maybe call the nurse hotline first. I hung up feeling sick to my stomach. Michael was next, and even though he lived far away, I was curious about his response. Oh no, Mom, how bad is it? Do you need me to drive down? I don't think you need to drive 4 hours, honey, but I'm not sure I should drive myself. Absolutely not. Listen, let me call Sarah and see if she can help. If not, I'll have an Uber at your house in 10 minutes and I'll pay for the ride and the medical bills. Don't you worry about any of it. An Uber, Michael, I don't know how to use that. The driver will call when they're outside. I'll set it all up and text you the details. I'm going to call the urgent care center too and let them know you're coming. Mom, I'm so sorry I can't be there myself. I was impressed by Michael's response, though disappointed he immediately suggested the same solution as Sarah. Still, he was willing to pay and arrange everything. Danny was third. Margaret's son had always been polite but distant. Oh wow, Aunt Linda, that sounds painful. I'm actually in Seattle this week for work. Could you call Sarah? Or maybe there's someone else who could help. I understand, Danny. I hope your work trip goes well. Thanks, hey, let me know how it turns out, okay? I hope you feel better soon. Polite but uninvolved, as expected. Finally, I called Rebecca. I felt a little guilty about this one since she wasn't even family, but I was genuinely curious. Mrs. Patterson, of course, I'll be right over. Do you need me to bring anything? Ice pack. Should I grab your purse and insurance cards? She was at my door in 5 minutes, having clearly dropped whatever she was doing. She helped me to her car with gentle concern, asked about my pain level, and chatted about her nursing classes to keep me distracted during the drive. The good news is, it doesn't look like a fracture from what I can see, she said, examining my ankle carefully in the waiting room. Probably a bad sprain, but you were smart to get it checked. She stayed with me through the entire visit, asked thoughtful questions of the doctor, and stopped at the pharmacy on the way home to fill my prescription. The doctor said to elevate it and ice it regularly. I can check on you later tonight if you'd like, just to make sure you're managing okay. When I tried to pay her for gas, she waved me off. Don't be silly, Mrs. Patterson. You do the same for me. The thing is, I realized she was right. I would do the same for her. But would my own children? A week later, I called everyone with my banking emergency. Sarah's response: Mom, how could you let your card get compromised? Don't you know you're supposed to monitor your accounts daily? And why do you need $150 for groceries? That seems like a lot for one person. After a long lecture about financial responsibility, she said she'd think about it and get back to me. She never called back. Michael immediately offered to transfer money to my account. Mom, I'll send $200 just in case you need extra. These banking things can take forever to sort out. Danny expressed sympathy, but explained he was having his own financial struggles after some unexpected car repairs. Rebecca showed up at my door within an hour with groceries. I know you said you needed cash, Mrs. Patterson, but I thought this might help immediately. I picked up the basics: milk, bread, eggs, some of those crackers you like, and I got your prescription refilled while I was at the pharmacy. She'd spent her grocery money for the week on me without being asked. The computer test revealed the most about everyone's character. Sarah, Mom, I don't have time to come over and deal with your computer problems. Can't you call that tech support number? Or maybe it's time to just accept that computers are too complicated at your age. Michael called me back after work and spent 45 minutes on the phone walking me through various solutions, even though none of them worked for my fictional problem. Danny suggested I take it to Best Buy's Geek Squad. Rebecca came over with her laptop and spent 3 hours helping me recover my files. She was patient, encouraging, and even brought cookies she'd made that afternoon. After completing my tests, I sat down to really think about the results. Michael had shown genuine concern and willingness to help despite the distance. Danny had been polite but uninvolved, which was at least honest. Sarah had failed every single test, always putting her convenience first and treating me like a burden. But Rebecca had exceeded every expectation. She'd treated me like family, shown up without being asked, and given her time and money freely. That's when I realized something important. Blood doesn't guarantee love, and love doesn't require blood. I thought about my week with Rebecca during my ankle injury. She'd checked on me every evening, brought meals without being asked, and even helped me catch up on some housework I'd been putting off. When I'd tried to pay her, she'd laughed. Mrs. Patterson, you helped me through my hardest semester by bringing me soup and letting me use your quiet kitchen to study. You listened to me cry about my ex-boyfriend and celebrated with me when I passed my boards. This is what people do for each other. I realized that Rebecca had been treating me like family for months. She called just to chat, remembered stories I'd told her, asked about my health and my dreams. She'd even encouraged my Ireland travel plans, offering to help me research the best tour for seniors. Meanwhile, my own daughter thought I was too old to make decisions. I called a family meeting for the Sunday before Thanksgiving, 3 weeks after my tests. I invited Sarah, David, and the grandchildren, and asked Michael to join us on video call. I even invited Danny, though I wasn't surprised when he said he couldn't make it. I prepared a nice dinner, set the table with my good china, and waited for everyone to arrive. Rebecca had offered to help serve, since she knew about the inheritance and my plans, but I decided this was something I needed to do myself. I wanted to talk to everyone about Margaret's inheritance, I began once we were all seated, about how I've decided to handle it. Sarah immediately perked up. Good, David and I have been researching some excellent investment opportunities. Actually, I've already made all my decisions, I said calmly. But first, I want to tell you about something that happened over the past few weeks. I explained about my 3 emergencies and how everyone had responded. I was careful not to be cruel, just factual. I twisted my ankle and needed help getting to urgent care. Sarah, you suggested I call an Uber because you had a conference call. Michael, you immediately arranged transportation and offered to pay all the bills. Rebecca dropped everything to drive me and stayed with me through the entire visit. Sarah's face was getting red. Mom, what kind of manipulative game is this? When my debit card was supposedly compromised, you lectured me about financial responsibility and never called back. Michael sent extra money immediately. Rebecca brought groceries with her own money. You were testing us? David asked, looking uncomfortable. When I needed help with my computer, Sarah told me I was too old for technology. Michael spent his evening on the phone trying to help me. Rebecca spent 3 hours at my house patiently working through solutions. Emma was watching this conversation with fascination, while Tyler seemed to understand that something significant was happening. Mom, this is ridiculous, Sarah said. You can't judge people based on some silly tests. Can't I? These weren't tests of your love, Sarah. They were tests of basic human decency, of whether you see me as a person worthy of respect and care. Michael's voice came through the computer. Mom, I'm confused. What does this have to do with the inheritance? Everything, I said, pulling out the will I'd prepared. Because I've realized that the people who deserve my help aren't necessarily the people who share my DNA. I read them the new will, 70% to Rebecca, 20% retained for my own needs and dreams, 10% split between Sarah and Michael. The room exploded. That's not even family, Sarah shouted. She's just some neighbor girl who's manipulating you. Rebecca has treated me more like family in the past year than you have in the past 5, Sarah. Mom, Michael's voice was strained. I understand you're upset with Sarah, but I live 8 states away. I do my best to. Michael, you're getting 5% because you did show you care, even from a distance. You offered help immediately every time I needed it. And me, Sarah demanded. You get 5% and a lesson in how to treat your elders with respect. David was staring at his plate, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. You can't do this, Sarah said. I'll contest it. You're obviously not thinking clearly. This proves what I said about you being too old to make good decisions. There it is again, I said quietly. I'm too old. Too old to make decisions about my own money. Too old to expect respect from my daughter. Too old to change my will when I realize who truly cares about me. Emma suddenly spoke up. Grandma, I think you should do whatever makes you happy. Sarah whirled around. Emma, stay out of this. No, I said firmly. Let her talk, Emma, thank you. I mean, Emma continued, you're always nice to everyone, and you remember everything about us, and you still drive and cook and everything. I don't think you're too old for anything. Tyler nodded. Plus, Rebecca is really cool. She helped me with my science project when I was over here last month. That seemed to be the final straw for Sarah. Fine, she said, standing up abruptly. If you want to give your money to some stranger who's obviously taking advantage of you, go ahead. But don't expect us to pretend this is okay. I expect you to learn from it, I replied. I expect you to think about whether you want to repair our relationship or continue treating me like I'm incompetent. She gathered her purse and started toward the door. David kids were leaving. Actually, David said quietly, I think I need to apologize to Mrs. Patterson. Sarah and we got caught up in managing your finances and forgot to ask what you actually wanted. Sarah stared at him in shock. David. Sarah, your mom isn't senile, she's hurt, and maybe she has a point. Emma hugged me before she left. I love you, Grandma. I think your inheritance plan is kind of awesome. Tyler whispered, can I still come over and help you make cookies? Of course, sweetheart. Sarah left without another word. Michael stayed on the video call after everyone else left. Mom, I owe you an apology too. I should have been calling more, visiting more. I let distance become an excuse. Michael, you showed more care from 400 miles away than Sarah showed from 20 minutes away. But you're right, we could have a better relationship. I'd like that, and Mom, I'm happy for you. I think you should go to Ireland. I think you should travel and enjoy yourself. You've earned it. And thank you, sweetheart. And Rebecca sounds like a wonderful person. I'd like to meet her next time I visit. And I'd like that too. After I hung up, Rebecca came over as she'd been doing every evening since my ankle injury. How did it go? She asked gently. I told her everything. Mrs. Patterson, I can't accept that much money. It's not right. Rebecca, you've shown me more kindness and respect than most of my family. You see me as a whole person, not just an obligation or a problem to manage. This inheritance is going to someone who will use it wisely and who has already proven they care about others. But it's your family's money. It's my money, and you're my chosen family. Rebecca, you're about to graduate nursing school. You could use this to pay off your loans, maybe buy a house, start the life you deserve. And in return, you could help an old lady fulfill some dreams. What dreams? Well, I was hoping my travel companion might want to see Ireland next spring. She started crying then, and so did I. I'm writing this from a bed and breakfast in County Cork, Ireland, looking out at the greenest hills I've ever seen. Rebecca and I have been here for a week, and it's even more beautiful than I imagined. She graduated nursing school with honors and started working at the pediatric hospital. She bought a small house 3 blocks from mine and insists I'm her honorary grandmother. She calls me Grandma Linda now, and it makes my heart sing every time. Michael has visited twice since the inheritance revelation. He's making a genuine effort to be more involved, calling weekly and planning to bring his family for Christmas. Sarah and I haven't spoken since that dinner, though Emma calls me secretly sometimes, and Tyler still comes over for cookie-making sessions when he's visiting friends in the neighborhood. David sent me a card last month with a simple message. "You were right, I'm sorry. I bought that new roof I needed, traded in my old car for something more reliable, and yes, I'm planning several more trips. Rebecca and I are thinking about Italy next year." But the most valuable thing I gained from my inheritance wasn't money, it was clarity. I learned that respect isn't automatically earned by blood relation. That love is shown through actions, not obligations. That being 68 doesn't mean I'm too old to make smart decisions about who deserves my time, energy, and resources. My daughter thought I was too old to decide anything important. Instead, I made the most important decision of my life, choosing to surround myself with people who see my worth. Sometimes the family we choose means more than the family we're born into. Age brings wisdom, not weakness, and respect should flow both ways between generations. If someone treats you like you're incompetent or too old to make your own decisions, maybe it's time to show them exactly how capable you still are. Have you ever been dismissed or disrespected by family members who thought they knew better? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else find the courage to stand up for themselves. Don't forget to subscribe to Silent Revenge for more stories about karma, justice, and the wisdom that comes with age. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story about people getting exactly what they deserve. And remember, it's never too late to change your mind about who deserves your love, respect, and generosity. Sometimes the best revenge is simply choosing better people to share your life with.